All right.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and tuning in for the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month event. So we've got a great lineup for you today. We'll be having a question and answer roundtable discussion with some rising stars and key influencers in the entertainment industry to just kind of understand their unique backgrounds and personally hear from them about successes and challenges that they've experienced throughout their respective careers. But before we get started, I am Captain Joanne Whitlock, Operations Officer for the 628th Logistics Readiness Squadron, Joint Base Charleston, South Carolina. And I'll be one of the moderators for this roundtable.
All right, half a day. I'm KrisRyan Borsil, Affirmative Employment Program Manager for the 412 Test Wing Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Office for Edwards Air Force Base, California. Also be moderating for this event. Before we get any further, I'd like to give a quick shout out to one of our co-chairs for this AAPI Heritage Month who couldn't be with us today, Mr. Major Peter Lee. He's been monumental to all our efforts to make all this stuff happen. He'll be enjoying some much deserved time right now at Walt Disney World, but we know that he's tuned in, he's listening, and supporting us right now. So now, as Joanne said, we've got a great lineup for you today. We had some last minute changes to our lineup, do some unforeseen circumstances, but we do have a solid panel. And we're excited for this incredible opportunity to gain different perspectives regarding the AAPI community and our challenges and successes beyond the lens of government and military culture. We hope that this forum provides an environment for good vibes and to learn about different views on diversity and inclusion. We hope to help educate and broaden your public awareness regarding our AAPI community as a whole.
And with that said, just a quick disclaimer to everybody and reminder that everyone tuning in that the opinions expressed at this roundtable are the personal views of the panelists and moderators and don't necessarily represent the entire view of the Department of Defense, the Department of the Air Force, or any agencies within. And we also welcome all audience members to out there in virtual world to bring your own thoughts and inquiries into the discussion. So please feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A chat below and we'll make sure to address as time allows. So with that, let's get to the actual good stuff and introduce our awesome panel members. So panelists, please briefly introduce yourself as your name is called. So starting off, we have with us Filipino American actor Joel De La Fuente. You may recognize him from two Emmy award-winning series as the ruthless Inspector Keto from the Amazon Prime hit show Man in the High Castle, which I have been watched for like the third time recently, and Dr. Price in the Netflix horror series Hemlock Grove. He has also appeared in several episodes of Law & Order SVU, as well as shows such as The Blacklist, Manifest, Madam Secretary, and much more. His theater credits also include starring in the highly acclaimed one-person play, Hold These Truths. Joel, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Hey, everybody. Just so excited to be a part of such cool people and just to share our experiences and to take strength in our community. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Next up is Korean American actor and filmmaker Arnold Chun. You may also recognize him from the same series Man in the High Castle alongside Joel, and from his appearances in multiple hit shows such as Hawaii Five-0, The Big Bang Theory, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and The Bold and the Beautiful. He'll also be in the upcoming movie Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock. Hey, Arnold.
Hello to all my fellow Asian American Pacific Islander brothers and sisters in the United States Armed Forces. I'm so honored to be here, to be a part of this, and I'm so proud to have all you guys serving our country. Thank you.
All right, I think it's my turn. Next we have with us today is Hawaii's own former flyweight Bellator MMA world champion and Eddie Bravo International Combat Jiu-Jitsu flyweight champion, inaugural, and MMA Junkie's Breakthrough Fighter of the Year for 2018. I'm pleased to introduce Ilima-lei, the Eliminator Macfarlane. Many thanks to you for being with us today.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. You know, I do have a really special place in my heart for our military brothers and sisters who are serving for us and who have served. And of course, especially our Islanders. I feel like there's a ton of Islanders in the military, you know, who deserve all the credit and love. So mahalo for having me. I can't wait to meet you guys.
Right on. Thank you for that. And also with us today is Samoan American reggae R&B pop singer, songwriter. You may recognize her from the American Song Contest on NBC with the performance of her inspirational song Full Circle. She's the one and only Tenelle. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us for this conversation. Hi, Tenelle.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. And this is just an honor to be a part of this and on the panel. And yeah, nice to meet you all. I'm fans of like a lot of you. Okay, bye.
All right, and finally, I would like to introduce an awesome talent promoter from San Diego. She's an entrepreneur. She was a professional cheerleader at one point, an Air Force veteran, an advocate for island culture, and most importantly, she's my dear friend, the wonderful and incomparable Miss Natalie Ficarra. Say hi.
Hello, aloha. I am an honorary Asian American Pacific Islander, I guess. It's crazy. I was in the Air Force and I moved to Hawaii right as soon as I got out, and fell in love with the music. And actually, I met KrisRyan, Sergeant Borsil, when I was in Mountain Home Air Force Base. So ever since then, I met my first Islander friend, and the rest is history.
We're infectious like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for the great intro. So welcome again, everybody. So like KrisRyan said, really, this is just going to be just a roundtable discussion of different questions and just topics. So, and I'd like to start off with our two actors, so Joel or Arnold. You know, I know you guys probably saw recently about James Hong finally receiving like his Hollywood Walk of Fame at like 93 years old, thanks to Daniel Day-Kim. So I thought that was a pretty momentous effort in our community. But you know, the biggest topic with that is, why do you think it even took so long? He's 93 years old. He's been, you know, he's had a resume full of movies and TV shows in Hollywood, and there's been a huge push to get him this Hollywood Walk of Fame star. And after 60 years in the industry, he finally got it. But why do you guys think it took so long? Then why are AAPI contributions so overlooked in the entertainment industry?
I'll let Joel go first.
First of all, like you mentioned, I mean, it's great that you were able to mention a big shout out to Daniel Day-Kim, who really took it on himself to begin to sort of gather support for James. I think we all know the reasons why it's so hard to be recognized. I mean, having grown up, in this industry where we don't really see a lot of people that look like us, and often when we do, the representation is sort of problematic. What's really exciting, though, is there are now a group of people it's growing and growing. So you can have leaders in the community, people like Dan, who can say, hey, we need to recognize, one of our brothers who's been doing this for a long time, and that he can go out and find other people in the community, whether it's other actors, politicians, people serving on boards who are Asian American and also sympathetic and sensitive to the Asian American cause, where we can get these things done. So, James has had James has been in everything, and if you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, you got to go see it. It's such an amazing film, just a great American film that happens to have amazing kick-ass Asian American performers in it. But I think that we're going to start seeing that more and more, because there's people everywhere now. There's people in front of the camera, behind the camera, people writing the stories, people producing the stories. And I think that for so many years, people just weren't used to thinking about us. And when they did think about us, they were thinking about us as the other. And now, we're growing up, we're among brothers and sisters who look like us, who ate the same foods we did, or who we're friends with, or who consider as part of their group people that look like us. So, it's taken a long time, but I think as the changes start to happen, we're going to see them happen pretty quickly. That's my hope anyway.
I couldn't agree more with Joel. I mean, I think looking back at the history of Asian Americans in cinema, it seems like now there's much more of an initiative to push that envelope in making representation part of reality when it comes to the decision-making process behind, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera. As a kid, watching James Hong, he's been over 450, maybe even 500 different films, and it is kind of interesting. Why has it taken so long for him to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? I mean, I could only think of maybe just there wasn't the leadership there, maybe in the right circles, like Joel mentioned, with Daniel Day Kim taking the reins on it, kind of pushing it forward and making it a premise of knowing that, look, this is somebody who has done incredible work and incredible bodies of work and should be recognized. I can't think of a leader or individual in our community that has done such a thing like that to the level that he's done it, outside of what Helen Zia has done for the civil rights movement for, Vincent Chin when that thing happened. But that's a particular thing outside of entertainment. I can't think of something that's comparable to that. So I think maybe that was probably one of the reasons why there wasn't so much attention being given to that, because nobody really pushed it. Nobody really got out there and said the word of like, look, these are people in the industry that need to be recognized. These are people that represent America. These are people that are the faces of America. Yes, coming from a different cultural background, a different cultural perspective, and they're doing a body of work that is equal to, or if not even greater than, some of the people that have done it for legacy. So I think that could be one component, but I think there's not one answer. But I think we're living in an incredible time where I agree with Joel. I think we're going to see more of that happen, and I think it needs to be happening because it's the cultural fabric of our country.
Just to add to that for a quick second, I think also until now, people in, say, James's generation, and we've grown up in a way where we don't like to call attention to ourselves. We don't toot our own horn. We support other people, but we're raised not to talk about ourselves in a certain way. Like we're taught to just sort of do things a certain way. And I think it's a great way to live life sometimes, but when it comes to things like being in the public eye, or it can work against us because we're not saying, hey, look at me. We're just focused on doing the work. And so now that I think the younger generation is different, which is awesome, and that they can say, you know what, I deserve to be here. Look at me, pay attention to me. I want you to look at me. And I think that that's an amazing thing, and then when we have other people too, it's like, it's easy for me to advocate for someone like Arnold, who's amazing. And Arnold probably won't say anything about it. Like I can talk about stuff that Arnold's done, and you could have talked to Arnold for an hour and he won't have brought it up. You know what I mean? So I think that, it's just so great to see everybody here and like all of your accomplishments and stuff, and to have you have made that video, because I'm like, I don't know if you individually would have mentioned the things that you've done here on this panel. So it's good, Captain, that you're the one that's sort of bringing up, but it's a good point that like we don't toot our own horns a lot. And we make for good neighbors, but sometimes not great movie stars. You know what I mean? Because sometimes in order to do that, that's a part of the business. You got to call attention to yourself. So.
And it's funny you both mentioned that, because also in the military side, we have that's what we call the barrier analysis working group on why we are trying to push minorities into higher positions within the military. So both KrisRyan and I are part of the Asian American working group, and one of the things that we're focusing on is recruitment and retention, and we're trying to figure out and analyze the root cause of some of these issues. And what you were talking about, the cultural side of it, how we are more known to be the humble, kind of just quiet, I guess, culture. So we're not the ones that are standing up there saying, promote me, I'm up there. So it's nice to actually hear that from outside of the military as well, since that's kind of what all we know. So hearing from you guys from another lens is fantastic. But so based off of that, like you were saying, how we need more representation, it's no secret that Asians are rarely cast in lead starring roles, which, unless it's a movie specifically about Asians, like Crazy Rich Asians. Otherwise, I feel like it's always the token smart friend, or the Chinese delivery person, or the martial artist, or stuff like that. So as an Asian male, like, have either of you experienced like that kind of stereotype in auditioning for roles or anything like that? Like, what have you both done to kind of break out of that stereotype, I guess?
I remember when I was on the show with Joel, one of the things that he encouraged me so much with is, just being vulnerable about his experiences. And I remember just even, I'm going to say it, Joe, but you just coming to the studio and to the gate, and for the gate guard to constantly ask you, are you background? I thought of that as such a disrespectful thing, in the sense of like, this guy's like number 6, number 5 on the show. Like, how do you not know he's like the lead character in this series? And I think that some of that is tied to the perception. I think going even back to what Joel's talking about is the way that we've been perceived for the last, 50, 60 years, whatever you want to call it, in cinema, TV, whatever it is that we've been, portrayed as sort of like quiet individuals that work hard, that are studious, that are the quote unquote model minority term, which was not created by us. It was thrown upon us. And, you know, I think back to even all the auditions that I've had and some of the experiences. I mean, I remember there was one casting director literally in the room asked me, "Hey, you're Asian. Can you just start speaking some Asian language?" And I thought, you're not going to even be specific. Like, do you want me to speak Korean? Do you want me to speak Japanese? Like, and it's just, I don't want to go there and say, oh, this person's a bigot and a racist, but it could be just a lack of just being educated, knowing that there are different kinds of Asian people and not having that repertoire. I mean, again, I think in that moment, he's probably just, you know, putting me on the spot, but it's just the attitude and the place that it's coming from, right? What does it represent? What does it say about the person? That there wasn't a priority or a level of sensitivity or even care to know that, hey, this person probably has a unique background, a unique cultural upbringing, and a unique individuality about where they come from or what their heritage is. And I think that's something that we're constantly going to have to battle and continue to face as we continue to see more and more opportunities come up, to also have our cultures and have our language and have our unique individualities of our heritage integrated and intertwined in the fabric of the roles that we play or the storylines that we have. And I think Joel, you know, has always been such a great voice on the show when we were on it, because I remember overhearing or even being directly told about some of the battles he was fighting for us, in terms of how the Japanese side was portrayed and the things that would happen in the storyline from episode to episode. And it always inspired me to think like, wow, there's so much more work to be done. And this is in Canada, mind you. So, you know, yes, though the showrunner and, you know, the writer's room are based in America and they're all Americans, but even with the Canadian crew, to have that kind of precedence and that kind of presence there, it's something that does provoke change. It evokes the ability to have progress, because you're going to see that, wow, these people are outspoken about their culture, about their identity, about their storylines, about their characters, about what they are, where they come from, their backstories. And that just adds to the continual progress of evolving people to have their understanding that they're not just background. They're living, breathing, full-fleshed, three-dimensional individuals that play characters. And I think that, you know, we've got a lot more work to do, but it's an exciting time that we're in right now, that we're seeing a plethora of more and more opportunities. And we just got to keep working and building upon that.
Well, right on. Yeah, so you know, it's I was in my young career in the military. I was told that I'm pretty loud and obnoxious for an Asian guy. Yeah, you know, for an Asian guy,
Right on.
you're pretty loud. You're pretty
Right on.
outspoken. You talk too much. You're always out there. You're always getting, and I always find myself getting in trouble, but I didn't mind the trouble, because I always been an advocate of what we are and what we're trying to be, and unapologetic about it. And I think that's the important thing, you know, whether we're in the civilian sector and, you know, in a profession and the military profession, sometimes you got to get your voice out there. In order to do that, sometimes you gotta break waves. You know what I mean? All right. So
Well
with that, let's move on to Ilima. How you doing? So
I'm good. Aloha.
you're good. So you know, you've, you know, in your fight career, you know, you kind of made big waves. You know, you've become a
Oh,
I think we have some technical difficulty. So
icon for
Internet
MMA
internet
fans,
difficulties.
especially in the Pacific Island culture. Everybody, okay.
he's back.
No, I thought it was I lost everybody. Okay, so the Asian American Pacific Islander community, we tend to rep hard for our fighters when it comes to, you know, the fight game. BJ Penn, Manny Pacquiao, Brandon Vera, Frank Camacho, Max Holloway. You know, to become kind of like our own legends in our community for the fight game. We're big fans about this. Now that you're a part of that, I know that comes with a lot of pride, but what does it mean for you to have your name amongst those legends in our community? How they inspired you, and do you feel that the inclusion in the sports today, where it's headed today, is going in the right direction compared to what it's been in the past?
Well, thank you for including me with all of those names, because those are like truly legendary names in the sport. And for someone who never really had a fighting background, you know, I always joke that I was a private school Hawaiian. Like, I never got into street fights growing up at all. And, you know, fighting was never on my radar until I started doing it. You know, they call me the accidental champ. But to be included with those names, it's truly an honor. But it also comes with great responsibility, as well. And, you know, I think that the fight game is definitely, it's moving in the right direction, especially for women, because, you know, we had to fight to earn respect. You know, I'm sure in a lot of industries that are, you know, male dominated, the women, we had to get respect and to prove to people that we could fight. So to be kind of part of that wave was awesome. And of course, to be able to represent for Native Hawaiians, it's like, yes, we did have the BJ Penns already. We had the Max Holloways, but there wasn't really a female Hawaiian that was representing. So again, to be kind of like a pioneer in that sense, it's truly an honor. But like I said, comes with a lot of responsibility. And I try, my message to everyone is that my legacy, I don't want to be remembered for what I did in the cage, but mainly for what I did outside of the cage for women and Native Hawaiians, Native communities, and our islanders.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think you're doing that when people know who you are, you know, it's fans of, the fight sports is huge. And, you know, I know, you know, some friends, when we talk about, hey, have you heard about this fighter? Have you heard about that fighter? And you definitely made waves. I'll give you that. Definitely. So for Tenelle, so Pacific Islanders, we make less than 1% of the American population. How important is that representation for you? You know, when you see folks in the entertainment industry, like, you know, for example, Dwayne Johnston is, you know, he's biggest name, he's Samoan. And you got guys like Jason Momoa, you know, is fine, you know, well-known public figures in the world. I mean, how that makes you feel. And does the idea of representation add any pressure to you as an artist now that you're becoming more well-known, especially in the API community?
You know what? With this NBC show, I'd never been on national television ever. But all of us are raised just, it's never about you, it's always about us, you know? And so the experience was crazy overwhelming, but my prayers and my family and thinking about my grandma, and it's just like an overwhelming sense of culture and like pride. So whether we're 1% or whatever percent we are, you know, I know that we always carry it 100% on our shoulders, you know what I mean? And so thank you for allowing me to be on this panel, first of all. Ilima, I love you, sis. And man, I'm just honored to be here. I work hard and I love being the one that stands out, you know, the one that people ask so many questions because they don't know who we are, you know. And on the NBC show, the top question was, what is a Polynesian? You know, oh, it's a Hawaiian. I'm like, yes, same family, but there's also Melanesian, Micronesian, Polynesian, and there's a whole bunch of us that, you know. And so breaking it down to them, just like going back to what Arnold said earlier, is, you know, it's the lack of education. And so it's educating them without, you know, being so firm. But, you know, you got to be a little bit firm, you know. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. And my goal with the show was so that they remember who Polynesians are after the show. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Some quick comments from the Q&A from the audience. So they wanted to make sure from Miss Brittany, no, Tenelle, she works at Edwards Air Force Base and has a 2-hour commute. And so when she's driving, she listens to your song Family. So I believe you did it with the Beach Boys. So shout out to her.
Thank you, girl. Yeah, my family's everything. Just like all of our families, man. Family is everything. Food is everything. Spending time is everything. You know, we don't come from money. And so it's just a privilege to be here and then just to have opportunities just present themselves. So thank you for your support.
I love it. I wanted to get to this question because we missed it earlier. So back to Joel and Arnold. So Jackie Chang was asking, do you feel there was good representation in the writer's room and the support staff for Man in the High Castle? I know we talked about the actors and the stars themselves, but you know,
I mean,
Joel,
I think that it's a complicated question. think I would say yes. The short, easy answer is yes, and by that I mean there was a strong intention with the storytellers to include people who had Japanese and also an Asian American perspective on the story, and that was very unusual. Like it's a job where I've never been in the situation before where my input was not just welcome, but it was required. You know, I was depended on to sort of have a point of view, and it sort of speaks to what you all have been mentioning. Everyone has said something about responsibility, and I think that what separates us from, say, you know, people in our same fields who are white, for example, you can just do your thing. Like if you're part of the majority because you love it, or just because, you know, yeah, I'm not focusing on that, I'm just focusing on this. But when you look like us and you live in this society, you love fighting, so you fight. But you also know I have a responsibility. And when you sing, you know you're singing from your soul because it's what you were born to do. But you also know I've got to teach people about where I come from. Nobody else has. I mean, you know, like, you know, a lot of people don't have that responsibility like we do. And sometimes, I mean, I think it helps form my identity, like who I am, because I feel like if I had the same characteristics but looked like everybody else, I don't know if I'd be an actor. Maybe I'd be a doctor. Maybe I'd be something else. But because the way I look in this society is the way it is, that's a huge reason why I'm an actor, because every time you get up in front of people, it's political, like whether you want it to be or not. Because whether you like it or not, like by playing Keto in Man in the High Castle, by playing a bad guy, by playing somebody that people are scared of, it opens up a whole bunch of concerns. It's like people are like, oh, that's a stereotype, or we've seen that before. But then what's unique about a character like that, and this is a really big deal about representation, the difference is when you can play characters who are part of, they're crucial ingredients in the storytelling process, which is to say, your character helps determine the overall arc of the series. That makes your character a key storytelling component, and you have the opportunity to be a complex character. So you're not just a Hawaiian fighter. You're a woman and a fighter who never fought before, who has social concerns, who does all that, and you fight. And so when we get to know all of you, you become really complex. Whereas if like you're just one person watching and you're like, oh, I'm not going to root for the Hawaiian fighter, but then they get to know you and you're not just the Hawaiian fighter anymore. You're like this amazing, complicated person, you know, or, you know, and we become complex. We give the world an opportunity to get a tiny glimpse into our complexity, which is so much different than the Chinese delivery guy, the best friend, the foreign exchange student who doesn't speak English, the sexy geisha, you know, like all that stuff that like we've been in service to before, which was completely at the whim of a dominant gaze. What do white people want to see us as? Oh, I want to see you as the delivery guy. I want to see you as a sexy woman who doesn't speak any English and just wants to please me. Like those are the roles that were present for so long. But now we're in a position where we're going to tune in to see what you do because you're helping tell the story. That's a radical difference, because then you can be good, you can be bad, you can be funny, you can be this, and you defy any one thing and people start to care about you. And so when people start to care about us, people want to understand us. And when they want to understand you, now we're talking about being a part of society, right? Like, you know, because when people talk about when people talk about The Godfather, they don't go, oh my God, it's so stereotypical. It's like Italian mobsters. How many times have we seen that? No, they say it's one of the great films that's ever been made. Why? Because people see it. When people see Italians, they don't just see mafia people, because it's their neighbor next door. It's the person who owns the restaurant down the street. It's their babysitter. With like Asian people, a lot of the time, it's like for some people, it's the only time they're going to see an Asian person, you know, or they're going to. And so it fulfills like this. It's this hugely important thing, you know. So if all they're seeing are, you know, like people that don't speak English, and that's all that they see, or, you know, then they start to develop this idea about us that's not complex. And that doesn't serve us. And I feel like what we do by being in the public eye, that's the responsibility that we have, which is to excel at what we do because we love it, but to also be seen, whether we want to or not. It's like look, be a great fighter, be an amazing singer, but we also know at the same time, we're also giving people an opportunity to experience people that look like us, you know, who come from a slightly different background and are sharing stuff with them. That's, you know, I think that can change the world, you know, because suddenly people identify with you more, you know, like suddenly they say, you know, God, I wish that, you know, I wish my jujitsu was as good as hers, or God, I wish I could hit a high C the way she does, like all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yep.
Anyway,
That's actually
I
a
sort
great
of went off there.
segue. That's actually a great segue, Joe, because my next question is for Nat, right? So ever since I've known Natalie, she's a talent promoter, and ever since I've known her, even in her young Air Force days, when our first TDY together and whatnot, she's always had this drive and tenacity. So you always had that about you, Nat. But after separating from the Air Force, you found yourself finding new endeavors, making your way to Hawaii, and got immersed in the culture and especially the music. I want you to tell us a little bit more about how that experience shaped your perspective of this Asian American Pacific Islander community, and how did it add value to your life, professionally and personally, as someone not of AAPI origins.
Yeah, Joel, it's like what you were saying, it's so spot on for somebody like me. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm Italian. I am the Italian girl, right? And that's who I am. But like you said, being relatable. But the Asian, especially the Asian American Pacific Islander culture is so relatable to Italians. When we walk into a room, we honey everybody. Everybody gets a kiss 10 times. You take your shoes off. You better eat everything. Show respect. Like it's exactly the same. We're the same. We're just 3,000 miles away from each other. So when I did get out of the military and I did move there, I mean, I was like, I'm home. I love this. I felt so comfortable. Especially, and then the music is obviously where everything started for me back in 2005. And I feel like I was also placed in like a great, like the perfect timing, I guess. So like with Tenelle, she's you know, up for Grammys, and in this industry, the artists that are getting Grammys now, I fell in love with the music, and because I'm on the East Coast, so it's Jamaican reggae, right? But I go out to Hawaii and it's Pacific Islander, Joanne, like what is this stuff? I love it. And there was nobody doing anything really in San Diego. And so I ended up, long story short, I got to San Diego. There's so many Pacific Islanders, not a whole lot going on. I was able to position myself to be able to bring them to the mainland to start throwing concerts and shows. The bands that are now, you know, Billboard top charting artists, I literally used to sleep on my couch, like picnics and bars that were 50 people would show up, and now they're selling out amphitheaters. And it is, and like you said, like this has just happened. So this is in 2009, I want to say, is really when things started ramping up. Ilima was in college and underage, and I would give her flyers to go put on her college campus, and I would sneak her in, don't tell anybody, to the shows, like in exchange. And and that was not even 20 years ago. Fiji, we call him the Elvis of island music. He's only 50. Like he's only 50 years old. Like this is not like, you know, it's new. Like you guys said, like you're the foundation or like the change in your culture. And for me, I just love to be a part of it. Like I want to be a part of it. I'm not going to get the tattoos. I don't go out and start speaking pidgin to everybody, but like I'm there for it. I have the first music festival with all these artists in Southern California. So, you know, it's little. Right now it's got 4,000. We got 4,000, 5,000 people. But like, I mean, this genre is blowing up from the last since like I started in 2014. We had maybe 1,000 people, and it's just growing and growing. The more social media and like people, like you said, when people just see this and they the first time they come to the festival, they're like, "What's that food?" There's dancers, the music, the aloha, the culture, they love the love, and yeah, you guys are people just want to be a part of it, and I just think it's like the most beautiful thing to witness. And I'm obviously not Asian or Pacific Islander, so I'm in the background. I'm just like, wow, like I'm like the biggest cheerleader of it. So yeah, and the other thing I will say to support that too is I never even ate sushi until I was 18. Like I did not know that it was a thing. So I'm from upstate New York, close to Canada. And this is, you know, pre-MySpace. This is 2001. I graduated high school. And like fast forward 20 years, like I can't believe, like I can pick out, I'm like, oh, I know Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesian islands. I've learned the Easter Islands and like, you know, how the queen was thrown over, like in Hawaii, like I know all these things now, and it's 20 years. And yeah, I mean, and I just think it's still super new. So I don't know. I just wanted to support like what all you have said so far. I'm like watching it from out here. You guys are in the front doing it, but I'm just like the observer cheerleader, the one that's like gobbling it all up. And like, so anyways, it gets me really pumped up and I get excited. So anyways, that's, I don't even know if I answered your question, but there you go.
Not at all. No, I'm kidding. No, that's insightful.
Not at all. Oh my God.
No, it's great.
Well, we definitely appreciate your support.
So we have a food question that came up, and I think you were talking about culture now, so this kind of a good segue. It says, I guess it's for everybody, right? So you guys chime in when you can. So how does, and you know I'm a food guy, if you guys know, right? So how does your local cuisine bring in your culture and even outsiders to want to learn more about your identity, which is a great question because food is an international language. Anybody who want it, jump on.
Oh, I immediately introduce people to Filipino culture with balut. I immediately throw that right out there with the balut. If anybody knows what that is, I immediately throw that out there.
Joey laughing hard.
So one way that I always, you know, people are really curious about poi because I've had a poi sponsor throughout my whole fight career. And, you know, I have them on my fight gear, I have them on my banner, and they see me eating it. And so they always ask me, you know, especially because fighting, we have to cut weight. Our diet is super important as an athlete. And so, you know, they always see me smashing the poi and they're like, what is that? You know? And so that's when I get into it. And I feel like there's kind of levels of explanation. There's kind of like the surface level explanation where it's like, oh, this is a superfood, main staple of the Hawaiian diet. You know, we eat it typically with some raw fish, but then there's like the deeper explanation that, oh, this is actually haloa, which is, you know, it's a creation story. And so it kind of depends who I'm talking to, but yeah, my favorite thing is letting them try poi. I mean, it's not as crazy as balut. I admit that I've never tried balut before, but and I don't really plan on it. Yeah. Yeah, but poi would definitely be my thing that most people are very curious about.
Right on.
Probably for me, people, non-Asian people still ask me about kimchi all the time. Like, how do you eat it? Like, how can you stand it? Why does it smell so bad? I don't hear Asian people really say that it smells so bad. Well, maybe some do, but you know, it's basically fermented spicy cabbage, and it's a staple of obviously Korean cuisine. And almost all the other side dishes are all like fermented. So there's always like a question of like, where did you guys like figure out the fermentation process? Like, why is everything pickled? I gotta go maybe back into the science books of the cooking process, find out like where they discovered that, who they borrowed it from. But yeah, kimchi definitely is always like, how do you guys eat that stuff? It's so stinky. Like, I don't know, it's great for me.
Yeah, for me, I've always cooked and I always try to explain people like, Filipino cuisine is like a melting pot of everything. It's a melting pot. And actually there are pre-tribal roots before. And then I get really deep into this and I start talking on a tangent. Next thing you know, people looking at me like, I just want to ask you how to make it, but because it's so much culture that comes behind it. So, Tenelle, did you have anything for this? The question was cuisine and how do you bring people into introduce them to your culture through cuisine?
Oh man, food is everything for us. It's conversation, it's hanging out, it's I love hosting parties. And so yeah, I be introducing them to all the palusami, the squid luau, all of it. And especially because I'm Samoan and Black, so I love to cook and I love to host, and that's something that I've learned from my grandma. And so yeah, definitely the Polynesian side.
Do you have anything for Filipinos?
At my church, I go to Aloha Church in San Diego, and they are always getting people to like come by offering musubis, like come try musubi, and they're like, what is that? And then when people say musubis, I'm like, my ears hurt, like say it right. So, and it's not, like I said, it's not my thing, but that's, if I could add anything to the conversation, I think that's one of the most intriguing things that people outside of the culture are like, what's a musubi? You use Spam for real? Like, yeah, and then they try it. They're like, oh, this is delicious. Where do I get it?
Island prime rib.
Yeah.
I want to add something to piggybacking off of what Arnold said about kimchi. So I am actually part Korean. My great grandfather is from Seoul, Korea, and he came to Hawaii to work the plantation fields. So I'm also like very proud mixed Korean Hapa Hawaiian girl, and I eat kimchi for every single fight camp because yeah, I love it, and it's 0 calories, so I can just like load up on it during the weight cut. Yeah.
If I can just add to it, I think to answer the question for all of us, I think all of our food in almost all of our cultures, I mean, it's a great way to just spark the conversation of telling them the history of where it comes from and how it's made and why it was eaten. And I think that's just any conversational piece to bring anyone together in terms of just learning about that, because there's a significance to it, right? Especially the historical part of like why those particular ingredients or why those particular foods were brought together and infused and how it was created. I think food is always a great way to unite people and bring culture together, because everybody eats food, man. You got to have food. And especially when you have a whole plethora of different kinds of food. Yeah. I think that's the one thing that maybe we need to have more of, is like bring in cross-cultural food events in our community so that we can bring way more people to come and see our culture and our backgrounds and our history.
Come join the military, Arnold. We definitely have a lot of lumpia and a bunch of
man,
we got mystery meat too, so it's exciting.
Mystery meat. I don't even want to know what that is.
Nobody knows what it is.
Nobody.
Something that I noticed that has popped up like crazy is poke shops, right? Like in San Diego, one of my really good friends in San Diego, Nino Camilo, he curated the Poke Festival probably I think 11 or 12 years ago now. And it's going on this weekend in San Diego. But yeah, poke is just like exploded. And then when people say again, pokey, I'm like, no, it's poke. So
yeah, food is very conversational. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times we don't understand that the food is called what it, because naming food is actually a Western thing. Like in the East, like traditionally, no one named their food. They just called it how it's made. Like, for example, like adobo, right? Adobo is not what it's named. That's some Spanish guy that was walking around like, that looks good, I'm going to call it adobo. But that's not what it is. Actually, adobo is not the name of food. It's a cooking method, right? The original cooking method is called kilao. Kilao is to cook with vinegar, to preserve. And then when you cook that, it brings that specific flavor. Spanish didn't know what to call it. Adobo, adobar means to marinate, and there you go, adobo.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's why Puerto Ricans have adobo. That has nothing to do with our adobo.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd.
Way to spit the knowledge, KrisRyan.
That's
Love
all I'm
it.
good for.
Oh, Holly.
I'm not good for anything else.
Well,
So
I sort
I
of wish
wanna-
we'd done it all together so you could cook for us. Like, we should be sitting around a table eating doing it.
Yes, yes.
A literal round table.
But you're gonna do
That
it,
would be
Natalie.
great.
I nominate Joel's house.
Hey, there you go. Let's do it.
I'm down. So I kind of want to take this opportunity. Joel, you said earlier that, we don't ever brag about ourselves. We don't talk about ourselves, just culturally. Kind of want to take the opportunity for everybody to kind of let everyone know and us know what kind of big projects you guys have going on. What's your next thing so we can all look out for and watch out for? We can just go around the room. Whoever wants to start. Moment to brag about yourself.
See, no one's going to volunteer to go first. You see what I mean? You gotta make somebody go.
Lima, I know you guys got stuff going on.
You got to make somebody go. Arnold, what are you doing?
1, 2, 3, go.
You're about to star in the movie with Brad Pitt. You've got to talk about it.
Well, I mean, that's coming out in, I think it's going to push back to August, but I mean, it's an up and down journey. I think all of us understand that as artists, it's always a fight, and that's also kind of brings out our passion because we want to do it so fervently. We want to do it so zestfully with, all of our might, with all of our talent and everything. And so, over the last decade, I've been constantly also pursuing directing and being behind the camera. So developing stories and trying to tell real slices of life from our community has been my thing. The thing that's kind of been in development for the last 3 years and continues to go forward is a story about a Korean American family that finds redemption and forgiveness through Black gospel music. It's something that came to me from completely an outside source. And a producer I'm working with, an Irish American, I had no idea he was tapped into Black gospel music, let alone Korean singing Black gospel music. And showed me this documentary in 2014 of a choir group that came from South Korea, toured Harlem as a cross-cultural concert event, singing Black gospel. And if you never saw their faces, you would not believe that they were Korean. It's just incredible. And it blew me away because I, being a Korean American, thought I would know about it. I didn't even know about it. So that kind of became the genesis of adapting a story based on that in a dramatic and inspirational way. And so we recently got Vivica Fox attached to play the main choir director on it. And so we're on the hunt to find the main lead of it. And something that I've been blessed and honored to ask to direct is a project that I started in development with. So it's not signed or anything, it's just in development, but that's something that's been kind of gaining a little bit of traction. So hopefully, Lord willing, it will happen. We don't know, but that's what I've been hard at work at for the last, year.
That's fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see if it comes to fruition. I'm hoping that it will.
Mostly it's just having a project that you're excited about. I mean, because we all know there's things that we do that pay the bills and that is like it's successful working stuff, but it doesn't get your juices going. And this you could just see right from the get-go. I mean, it's got you going and it sounds amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you, brother.
Uh-huh.
Well, I am putting on a music festival in the middle of August, and Tenelle and Ilima are part of it. So I'll just, talk.
Wow.
I'm going.
Yeah. So, Ten's been on it a couple of times already, right?
Yeah, only once, sis.
Okay, so this will be her second time on. And then she also has a clothing company that she's brought her clothes to sell 10 by 10. And then Ilima is
the actor on that singing movie, sir. If you want me to be the actor for that movie, I don't know. I can look Korean,
There you go.
Sorry.
Let's exchange. Yeah, let's exchange numbers later. Let's talk about it.
I got you.
And then Ilima is going to be the co-host again this year, her second time. And I love pushing Ilima to do different things. And it was her first time ever like hosting a music festival. And this is her second time. But she's maybe fighting the day before. So she...
No, it's official. I signed the bout agreement. I'm literally fighting Friday in South Dakota and flying out on the first flight back to San Diego so I can host the festival. So hopefully I'm not all bust up or have to go to the ER after the fight.
That's awesome.
You get him.
Wait, where is the festival? Is it in San Diego? The festival's in San Diego? Or? Amazing. Yeah. What are the dates?
I know somebody that can get you in if you want to go, if you find yourself, you know, there.
If I happen to find myself in such a beautiful place, you better believe I'll come try to find you.
Yeah.
We'll all be able to eat together then. We'll all go to the festival and then we'll share a meal together.
Oh, there must be such great Filipino food too in San Diego too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We get Ilima to try balut. Yeah.
Oh, and you won't be cutting, and you wouldn't be cutting weight anymore, so everyone can eat as much as they want. Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
And I have a balut challenge.
So now what you got going on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just...
Oh no.
Oh,
What happened?
what happened? Oh wow.
So now, like,
Leaning forward now.
I think you're on
I
mute.
don't know what it is.
Oh, here we go. Can you hear me now?
there you go.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I just got off this NBC show called American Song Contest that was hosted by Kelly Clarkson and Snoop Dogg, which was unreal amazing. It took about 7 months to plan and curate the story with the producers. First time on national television ever in life. And I had the honor of representing American Samoa. I placed, what did I place? 6th in 56 contestants. And it was amazing. We went all the way to the finale and I was able to share that experience with just everyone all around the world. It's probably like the high of my entire career. And yeah, man, I have a tour coming up with Latasha Lee and Reno Anawai, and then working on opening up my creative shared space called Mana Entertainment, a nonprofit organization that my dad and I started in honor of my brother that passed away a couple months ago. So yeah, there's like all kinds of great things. And I just got an acting coach. So I don't know, you know, the stars are aligning, you know? And what else? I mean, it feels good to be back home. I'm washing my dad's laundry, so I'm back doing, you know, my fayals, which are my chores, you know, we just back to reality. And it's a privilege and honor to be here. And I'm just taking all of the wisdom that I'm getting today. So I'm really, really appreciative. Thank you, Nat, for putting me on.
So awesome. So I guess for me, I've been trying to take a page out of Arnold's book and trying to find ways to create things that excite me. I've been collaborating with somebody, writing for the first time on a project that I'm excited about. And then I've done a few episodes of things in a film over the pandemic that I think is about to get distribution that I'm sort of excited about. And then I was in Rome this last year during the pandemic, actually, to do the second season of this television show called Devils that's come out in Italy and the UK already, and it's coming to America in about a month, like June 20th, I think it's going to come out. It's with Patrick Dempsey and this wonderful Italian actor, Alessandro Borghi. It's about high finance. And I might have killed a guy. You think I might have killed a guy, but you'll see, like, if you watch, whether or not I did such a terrible thing. But it was a lot of fun to work on it, and I'm excited for people to see it here. It has an international cast, people from all over the place. You know, everybody speaking like, it's like everyone's speaking English, but everybody speaks it completely differently. It's sort of amazing. It's all this sort of, these puzzle pieces coming together to tell a story. And that's called Devils, and it's coming to the CW in June.
I saw the sneak peek trailer and Joel looks amazing in it, guys. You got to watch it. He looks amazing. He looks
Check
so
it out.
badass. You thought keto was something? This is like a times 1,000 keto.
So excited.
So nice. Thanks, Arnold.
You look amazing in it, though.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, thank
I
you
got
guys.
some
I will
of that.
definitely be tuning into all of that. And then Joel, Patrick McDempsey is McDreamy in Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. And a very, very nice man, I'd have to say. He's a really pleasure to work with.
Right on.
very
Yeah.
excited. So thank you guys for the discussion. Unfortunately, we're coming up to kind of the end of the allotted time. So kind of wrap up today's discussion, you know, we're going to ask you all, I know you just kind of did a round table. That's my dog. I'm so sorry. Wrap up today's discussion. Kind of just want to ask the guests to share just final words for either, you know, are the AAPI troops out there. Like I said, this will be recorded, so it'll always live on the archive to be watched. Just some final words from everybody, from all the AAPI troops or to the Department of the Air Force as a whole, and just kind of your final parting words. So
I just want to say, I just want to say I'm so proud of you guys serving our country. My father was a CH-47 pilot in 1967 in Vietnam, a part of the ROK Marines with the U.S. Army. And I grew up listening to his stories. He was shot down by RPG fire, fought his way out, made it through, caught a 7.62 round in his leg, 28 stitches, woke up in the infirmary, got discharged. And you know, military has always been a big part of my family and my background. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Like, that was my big dream, like when I was young, but I didn't have my father's eyes. I have to have 20/20 vision back in that time. But I've never lost love for just the service that you guys do and the things that you sacrifice for our country and for the service of our country. And I can't thank you guys enough by representing our community in that. And just know that I'm always here supporting you guys, and I always have military stories on my mind to do in cinema, because it's another way to showcase Asian Americans that are actually in the U.S. military, and that's something that I think still needs to be pushed on that end when it comes to representation in media and film and television.
Cool. Right on.
I'll go. So like I said in the beginning, I do have a very special place in my heart. I do come from a military family, believe it or not, because I am very politically outspoken when it comes to the militarization of the Hawaiian Islands. And I think, you know, many Pacific Islands or many islands in the Pacific Ocean, I am like an Aloha Aina warrior where I protect the land. And even though I do feel that we need, you know, our land back in Hawaii from a lot of the military, I still love the troops. I support the troops. Again, like my brother was Army, my uncle, they're all Army, sorry, Air Force. But we're kind of an Army family. But just know that I have tons and tons of aloha for our troops. And we mahalo you guys for everything that you do.
And one of her BFFs is Air Force vet. And we went on the USO tour, 2 years ago? Went to Poland, Romania. Where else did we go?
Well, I went to, well, we were supposed to go to the Middle East, and then like
Afghanistan,
everything started popping off. Yeah. So the USO tour was amazing. It was like one of the highlights of my career and my life, and I got to share it with my bestie, Nat. And yeah, just being able to visit the troops and, you know, bring a little piece of home to them across seas was like seriously the most incredible experience.
I never served in the military, but there was a period of time where I played for a couple of years, a Marine in the show called Space Above and Beyond. And through that experience, I got to meet, I mean, it was just such an amazing, lucky experience. Yes, because doing the show, but also because of all the amazing people that it opened me up to meeting, like getting to meet so many people in the armed forces, not just Marines, but all over the place. And the support that they showed for the show was amazing. And you could just, I have such respect for the discipline and the hard work and just the service, because those are things that you do that have such real life consequences and impact, you know, that I try to do in my job in a much smaller way. Like, I try to be of service to writing. I try to be, you know, disciplined too, but you guys are sort of like the shining example of how to be super disciplined, how to be super of service. And I tip my cap to you. Anytime I get a chance, I'd love to support you guys. So Thanks for having me on.
Right on.
Thank you so much.
And I have a little brother that's in the service, Alex Luafalemana, and there's a lot of Polynesians in the service and Asian Americans. And so, you know, this is just, you know, my prayers to you, and just thank you guys for all that you do for us. And, you know, my grandpa came to the States a long time ago to make a better life for us. And so I'm just very, very thankful for the opportunities that the military has opened for all of our families as well. And so, yeah, we're fighters. And so you guys being fighters make us fighters. So thank you guys.
Right on.
If I could say one thing to the military that are active duty still, as a vet, Air Force, nothing, and especially if you've deployed, nothing is hard when you get out. Nothing. Like, you will be able to do anything you want. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, in my opinion, is to live a military life. And when you get out, it's a little bit of adjustment, but you will be fine. Like, everyone's going to end up getting out one day. And it's exciting because all the things that you've learned, and you can take it out to the real world, and you're like, oh, that's hard for you. I hope that's like the worst part of your day. You know, it just seems like everything's just so much easier after you've had that experience. So I'm excited for everybody that is currently in the military for your life when you get out, because I know it can be scary. But don't be scared. You'll be fine.
Right on. Roger that. Thanks for that, Nat. Coming from a retired Air Force guy, I can definitely feel you on that. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. I want to give one big final kamsahamnida, mahalo, salamat, sijus, maasi, for all the panelists taking time of your busy day. And, you know, conversations like this is something that needs to happen more often. We may not all know each other, but we all know where we're coming from. You know what I mean? So thank you again for partaking with your busy schedules, repping our community. The Department of the Air Force truly does thank you.
And to everyone who tuned in live or is going to be watching this recording, you know, thank you for joining us in the special celebration of that heritage and its achievements of AAPI figures. It's always such a big honor to showcase our community in all fields, not just within the military. So really, really thrilled that we were able to put this together and get this done. So huge, huge thank you for all of you for taking the time. I know your schedules are crazy and insane. So very, very humbled that you agreed to do this for us. So thank you so much. And everybody else, that concludes the afternoon's event. So thank you again for joining, and wish you all have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.